Welcome to the Candid Creative Podcast with Manda and Lys,
where we're all about growth, innovation, and keeping it candid.
Tune in every week for sharp insights and real talk on the creative business world.
Stay ahead of the curve with our mix of expert advice, industry secrets, and inspirational stories. And remember,
your next idea is just one episode away.
We need to start this one by me telling you who me and Johnny think is your doppelganger.
Okay.
I just made a terrible noise with my mouth.
I hope it's not this Disney princess someone told me recently.
What?
Is it a Disney girl?
No.
Good.
No. It's a tennis player. The Australian Open's going on right now. I'm not sure if you know that. And we are, we're tennis people. We like to watch tennis. So there's this tennis player that literally for the last year, every time she's playing, Johnny's like, that's Alyssa. Alyssa's playing. We just call her Alyssa now.
What's her name?
We're like, Alyssa's crushing it. Her name's Danielle Collins. She's an American tennis player. She was playing this morning before we started podcasting. And
oh my gosh, she has big teeth.
Does she?
She has big teeth and she pronounces her M's with her teeth instead of her lips. Is that why?
I don't know this at all.
I said, let me guess.
She's beautiful.
Oh, yeah, I can see it.
She's a freaking babe.
No, I can see it. Sure. It's the eyes.
No, I can see it. Sure.
Sure. Yeah.
She's
the eyes and the cheekbones and the big mouth.
I hope everyone is watching this podcast on YouTube. But if you're not, go look up Danielle Collins. Alyssa's only looking up the most unattractive pictures of her, which is fine. But
thank you.
She's such a babe. I'm going to show this picture. What a babe. Can you see?
Yeah. It's pixelated for me because of our internet, but hopefully other people can see.
No, it was blurry. It was blurry for everyone. It was blurry for me too. Anyways, that's who we think your doppelganger is. And I feel like that's better than most of the doppelgangers I get. So
what do you get?
I think a lot of people just say you look like so-and-so usually when hair isn't like, when my hair used to be blonde, it was pretty much anyone blonde. So I got Taylor Swift a lot, which is insane. That's not even remotely true. No. And I got Nicole Richie one time.
Oh, I actually can see that one.
And I get Amanda Seyfried. Is that her name? I basically, any girl with like gigantic eyeballs and blonde hair, people are like, you look just like her.
I can see Nicole Richie, your dark eyes.
Oh, Richie.
Dark eyes.
They're not dark, like my eyeballs.
Eyes of coal.
Nicole Richie? I'm like, her like her iris?
Beady eyes.
God damn it. No, I guess
Nicole Richie? That's Paris Hilton's old best friend, right?
I don't know. Is it? Oh, here's a picture of them. Perhaps. I will just say our eye color is not the same.
It's not?
If you were my true best friend, you would know what color my eyes were.
Are your eyes brown?
No, they're green. It's fine. Sometimes blue.
That makes sense. Sometimes blue? That does not work
They
like that.
legitimately change colors. I am not even kidding you. I've looked it up before.
Ooh, Nicole Richie is not looking great in this picture.
That is the picture I saw also when I looked her up, and I was like, "Huh, that's nice, Alyssa." Yeah. I mean, you know who I think has aged really well? Obviously, there are a couple of celebrities who I think are just vampires. They're just not aging, and they never will.
Ew.
I think Natalie Portman looks so... I think she is my ultimate... I don't know what I would call that because I'm not like a celebrity crush. Like I don't care necessarily about her as a human.
Just call her your favorite celebrity.
She's not that either though. She's just, when people talk about like the celebrities they think are just beautiful. I think that's Natalie Portman for me. I just think she has been, always will be just this like angel. She's just this little angel. Also Blake Lively, but I think a lot of people agree with that one.
I don't care about Blake Lively.
I don't care about her either, but she's beautiful.
Do you care about Natalie Portman?
Why? Why one and not the other?
Natalie. I just like her.
I like her a lot too. She's just so classy and she's such a good actor.
I know of her. So shall we jump into this submission that I have waiting.
Let's jump in. We're doing all sorts of listener submissions today, hey?
Yep.
And these are going to be, what are these? Opinions, deep, dark secrets.
All over the place.
Stories. Okay.
We're just going to let them all out.
Mm-hmm.
I literally got chased by a groundskeeper with a chainsaw while he yelled, "You stupid bitch," because I walked on grass under the reception tent after he, quote unquote, fluffed it. And this was after he decided to change his pants in front of me while I was designing, saying, "Don't look. I know you want to look." I did not want to look. We eventually had to call the cops.
First off, I love the fact that this person specified I did not want to look.
I know. Like
we were going to be like, oh, well,
we know you didn't want to look.
We knew.
She probably did. She wanted to.
Second off, where were you? I want so many more details. Like, were you at an actual venue? Were you on a private residence? Where were you? Third off, love having Alyssa read these because the tone inflections are gold. One time, in relation to this story, we were at a venue, which was a barn in Oregon or something barn-esque. Like, it wasn't a barn, but it had a barn on it. And I assume just like the two people who lived at the house owned this venue. And we came back the next day for teardown. And we needed a ladder to get something down. And so we said, is there a ladder on site that we can use? And she was like, yeah, down in the stables down below. You can go get out the ladder. Okay, well, I didn't grow up on a farm. Johnny didn't grow up on a farm. I don't know anything about horses or cows or farm animals of any kind. It's not my wheelhouse. So we went down into the barn, got the ladder, brought it up. And apparently there was live animals in the barn that weren't like in specific areas.
Contained.
They weren't contained. Thank you. The horses got out.
In specific areas. It was very unspecific. Just in general, unspecific areas.
They were in their specific gated areas. They were not contained. There was uncontained farm animals in the barn that obviously were hiding when we walked in there because it's not like we saw them roaming around and then we were like, good luck, you all, and left. We just walked into the barn, grabbed a ladder, walked out. And apparently all the horses got loose. I don't know.
Oh, you left the door open?
Okay, is this common knowledge?
No, I'm just trying to keep up.
Because homegirl, the owner woman, just came screaming like a mad woman, like a banshee. Was just like, you left the door open, you left the door open. And we were like, why are you yelling at us? Like, just yelling. And she was like, don't you know anything? You have to shut the door. And we were like, what are you talking about? She was like, the horses are loose. And we were like, we didn't even know you had horses. Why don't you have a sign that says shut the gate? Like, why would we know that? We don't live on a farm. You do. It was this whole thing. She was so mad at us and it was so uncomfortable the entire teardown. And Johnny was like, I can go wrangle. Do you want me to go wrangle? Whatever you need me to do, I'll get in the car. Do you want help? What can I do? And she was like, just forget it. Don't you know anything about a farm? She literally said that. And Johnny was like, no, I don't. I'm really sorry, ma'am. I was like, we got to get out of here and we can never come back. And
oh my God. I don't have any stories like that.
Oh, man.
Or I just blocked them out.
Yeah, I do that a lot too. Next.
This person, should I read the next bit?
Yeah.
She says she has a little shady bit. She said she's sharing her shade.
Ooh, I'll take it.
She said, truly F repurposing ceremony arrangements. Literally every client in my rural destination market asks for this, regardless of their budget. Everyone gets married in front of the ocean, then reception's next door. I get the inclination, but it puts so many restraints on my designs, and it's such a pain in the ass to transition gracefully while guests are milling around. There has to be a better way.
Just say no.
Yeah, that's what I say. Unless I'm working with you, then I say, whatever you want, Manda.
Here's the thing, though. At least if I ask my florist, can we move this from ceremony to here? I, one, will help. 2, will prepare you ahead of time. So I will also try to help you figure out mechanics to make it an easy transition.
I honestly don't even remember you ever asking me to repurpose.
Because I hate doing it. I think it's stupid. The design, it does, to this person's point, it doesn't keep the integrity of the design. Everything falls out. And then trying to move anything from ceremony, I mean, it's the same as moving chairs from ceremony to reception. It's just ridiculous trying to like navigate between guests. It's just awful. It's terrible. I hate it. And I will never ask a florist to do it unless they offer. Sometimes they offer. So,
yeah. Well, I do think it's a good opportunity to raise the prices of the items you're moving because you can truthfully say, I'm not saying lie, you can truthfully say like you need to like fluff it, like you need to fix it. You can't just move something and it falls apart and things die. I mean, it's just inevitable. It needs to be touched up. So if you are repurposing it, you can add a fee, first of all, to stay during the reception or ceremony, and then you can also just make them a little more expensive than you normally would.
Yeah, and actually, if you do explain it like that, you know, you can say, sure, there's a $150 fee for me to do that, or you could just pay $300 to get a whole new arrangement, and then I won't have to, your guest won't be bothered with me walking through with a ton of flowers falling out of my hands.
Right.
It's a win-win. Man, I have so many good stories I can add to these. I have so many stories of just like coked out grooms. And there's one with Larkin, one of our grooms one time, or our groom's dad, like propositioned Larkin one time. Like asked her how much she would charge. And I was like, was he serious?
He wanted to pay?
He basically was like, how much would it cost to get you upstairs or something like that? And she was like, more than you'd be willing to pay, basically, or something like that. I don't know, some classic Larkin comment. She told me that, and I was like, I can't believe you even responded to his question.
You gotta change your mindset, Larkin. He might have been willing to pay. Like, at least throw the numbers out.
Throw a number out and see what he says.
Okay. I'm surprised at how many people responded. I hate when guests get mad about the bar closing for a bit to transition from cocktail hour to reception. Can you really not survive 10 to 30 minutes without alcohol?
10 to 30 minutes? I'm not going to lie. If I was a guest at a wedding, I'd be pissed too.
You don't even drink alcohol anymore.
Yeah, but like you don't go to a wedding and not drink like that. Okay. Weddings are meant to be a party. They're supposed to be a lot of fun, and there's supposed to be a celebration, and there's nothing more awkward than when everyone has to stand around talking to each other, making small talk with people that they may or may not know very well without a little bit, like it's supposed to be a party. Would you cut a bar off at a party?
Why does the bar have to close?
I don't know, maybe because they had it open at cocktail hour and then they like shut it down at the end of cocktail hour and moved it to reception. But there's ways you can get around that. I mean, either open the one over at reception early or something. I mean, I know it's hard with certain budgets and whatnot, but I mean, I'm not that surprised that a guest would get, or here, I'm just solving problems. But also if it's an option, you could just ask whatever venue you're at or catering if they'll pass drinks during that time. Right. You can say like the bar's shutting down for 20 minutes to transition, but don't worry, we're still passing wine and beer.
Yeah, maybe it's just like champagne or beer or something simple.
Yeah, you just got to distract people. But it is supposed to be a party. You wouldn't shut down if someone went to a bar or a restaurant and they were like, sorry, our bar shut down for 30 minutes. Like people would also get really frustrated. Yeah.
So no, they can't survive for 30 minutes without alcohol. Even though Amanda doesn't even drink, but she agrees. Would you? If I had a wedding, would you? What?
I understand the principle behind it.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
There's a DJ whose style gives Vegas club vibes.
There's all the DJs that give Vegas vibes.
He will literally be on the dance floor, taking his shirt off and making the evening about him at a wedding. All caps. He promotes himself throughout the night and will play songs and then share personal stories about songs he chooses to play and why. And not stories from the couple, his own personal stories. It's the most cringe thing I've witnessed from a wedding vendor. As vendors, we are ghosts. Weddings are not about us. This DJ does not understand that. Thankfully, we've only worked together once.
I think DJs are such an interesting thing because This is why there should be a very vast like marketing difference between wedding DJs and just DJs, because I think a lot of DJs get confused. They do. They think they're the star of the show a lot of the time. They really, really do, because they think they bring the party when reception happens. They're like, they think like this party's happening because of me.
They are like, I am Diplo.
Yes.
You guys are like a specific kind of person.
Yes.
Okay, I have a stereotype in my head that I know not every DJ falls under, but I think that they often drive like cube cars, like Scions, Elements, with small tires. Okay. And their cars smell like vape scent. Or like it smells like old smoke that they don't smoke anymore though, and now it just smells like fresh, like air fresheners.
Yeah, like new car scent. Like
I don't think very many DJs are listening to this, so
I don't know. I have a lot of DJ followers on my Instagram. Actually,
sorry guys.
I have actually so many thoughts about DJs specifically, but this is also why I'm so picky about the DJs I bring on, because I think they either go cringe or they're so great. And when you find a really great DJ, they're gold. That's why I think I have 3 DJs on my preferred vendors list after 10 years in the industry, because I'm just so picky, because they can go off the rails.
Ugh, yeah. I'm imagining some people. I dated a DJ a long time ago. Major mistake. He cheated on me, so.
Classic DJ. Just kidding.
He had a tiny car too. It was a square. But I've known a really nice DJ in Chicago who did not fall under these categories. He wasn't short. He didn't have a shaved head.
This is so weird. Such a weird conversation about DJs.
So
I think honestly a good DJ is like a great, I mean, I would pay big money for good DJs. Yeah. I do pay big money for good DJs. And then I think I've had a DJ one time show up 2 hours late. He got there like a half hour before, not even. He got there 10 minutes, I think, before ceremony started. Claimed he got a flat, but he had like specialty tires and wheels, like completely specialty. And he showed up with all of them. So I was like, you either literally had a spare specialty tire and wheel just chilling in your tiny car, or you did not get a flat. You just
he probably doesn't even realize what a spare looks like. He's like,
exactly.
They won't know.
Exactly. He's like, I had to put a spare on myself. And we're like, why does
it a cube? Was it a small car?
Yeah, it was like a racer car, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't a cube.
I think a certain kind of person drives a car. Do you drive a actual car, or is it kind of like a hatchback or like a SUV?
A Forester. Yeah, a Subaru Forester. So it's like a mini SUV.
I have theories about people who drive cars.
That's really interesting. That's so interesting. And seems so wide-reaching.
I know. I feel like I'm going to alienate our entire...
I don't think any of us want to hear your opinion on people who drive cars. There are too many people who drive cars.
Do people really drive cars?
So many people drive cars.
Almost everyone I know drives like a hatchback or...
I think that just has to do with the stage of your life. Like, do you have children? Or are you a super, maybe you do a lot of outdoorsy stuff. Maybe I don't know. And then also a lot of people just buy cars for the looks. You know how many girls have Jeeps? You know how many girls have Jeeps that don't need a Jeep?
Yeah.
A lot. Anyways, back to this DJ who came with a flat tire, not flat tire. He also kept making announcements throughout the entire evening. He would like mess something up and then he would literally make an announcement to blame it on us as the planners. He'd be like, sorry, the planner's timeline said this, so I played the wrong song. Like literally throughout the whole night, no matter how many times we went up to him, we were like, you got to stop throwing us under the bus. You realize we're never going to use you again, right? Like you've got to stop. What are you doing? And he just kept doing it. It was crazy.
It was so
crazy.
weird.
He was the
most... I
most...
was going to say about this DJ, if I was a planner, I would tell this DJ to stop doing that.
1,000%. Yes, exactly.
If he was good at the DJing part, but just was annoying and oversharing, like trying to be a little too showy. I would just say, like, let's tone down the personal anecdotes.
Yeah, please don't do those anymore.
The client requested it.
The client requested
the client under the bus.
Not hearing your personal stories anymore. Okay.
This is a ridiculous client story. My very first coordinating job at 21 was for a popular venue in my state. I was the venue-only coordinator at the time and had this couple who was a higher-end couple, more high-end than what she was used to. I had never met the groom, but adored the bride, and she mentioned him maybe getting a little too rowdy on their wedding day and to look out for it. Turns out he was a raging alcoholic. We had to shut down the bar before the ceremony even started. And when the toast came around, he stole the mic from the MOH.
Maid of Honor.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Called her a whore and told his wife of 2 hours that he didn't even want to marry her. We ended up having to call the police on him to have him removed from the venue. It was crazy. I was asked to testify for their annulment. The bride is happily married now to a seemingly nice guy, but I'll never forget that day.
Oh my God.
That's crazy. That would have been me if I hadn't broken off my engagement. He was
to the DJ?
No, that was someone else. There was a slew of bad ones.
Yikes.
That's terrible, though. Like, if you're worried about, don't get married to someone that you're worried about how they'll behave at your wedding.
Yeah, first, that's a red flag.
That's a red flag.
That's a massive red flag. I would like to know the context in which he called the maid of honor a whore. Like, was it right when he took the mic, or was it during his speech? Like, he was like, and by the way, you're a whore. Or did he take it from her and say, give that to me, whore? I'm just curious.
It was probably because, my guess is because she probably said something to him, like, get under control. And he was like, you're a whore.
Yes. Yes. It was in reaction,
it was
probably.
Just reaction.
Yep. Man, that's
a mess.
Yeah. I had a groom one time who was so hammered. I'm not sure what all he was on, but he kept shattering the toast glass. I will say that this was honestly one of my favorite weddings and by far one of my favorite brides. Still love her. Still friends with her. Love her so much. Her groom, though, just got a little rowdy. She loved him for it, but he literally shattered specialty champagne coupes. They had to have cost $35 a glass to replace. And he literally kept trying to go ding, ding, ding. But he just kept shattering. I'm not kidding. He shattered 3 in a row. Before finally,
sounds like they're defective.
Okay, you're done. Stop picking them up. You can't just keep shattering glasses everywhere. It was pretty funny.
There's one thing, but there's having fun together at your wedding, and then there's being afraid and knowing things are going to derail.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, I want to get your take on this. I hate it when planners fluff. This is a photographer.
Okay.
I hate it when planners fluff the dress at the aisle and ruin the very best shot.
What's the very best shot?
Maybe when she's coming down the aisle, initially.
This person's probably talking about when a planner follows her with her dress.
Fixing it right at the end of the aisle.
Yep. Well, I will say it is our job to fix the dress before she starts walking. Absolutely. And you would probably dislike it actually if we didn't do that. So I will say that. That being said, 1,000% there is a point where a planner just needs to step to the side and be like, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
I can't literally follow my bride down the aisle fixing her dress. And actually, I will tell my bride that, especially with flower girls and ring bearers too. Hey, if you don't have someone to control one of these kids walking down the aisle, I will end up being in all of your photos. And you don't want me, after working 8 hours styling your reception, in all of your aisle photos. So let's make a plan for it. And same goes for, the dress. Honestly, I don't even really like fluffed photos of dresses. This always happens at styled shoots too, where I won't do it. I mean, I actually will not do it. So oftentimes a photographer or maybe the hair and makeup artist will go in and they'll fluff the back of the dress and lay it out all perfectly. And I'm like, no one's dress looks like that regular. That's not, it looks silly to me.
Yeah.
in photos.
Especially when it's a big train that's like round.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
It looks
It's
crazy.
stiff.
Yes. I hate it.
It looks stiff.
Yeah. So I agree actually with that. And honestly, and hey, again, piece of advice, because I can't not give advice. I think that as a photographer, you could have a conversation with a planner and just say, like, hey, will you just make sure you don't have to say, will you make sure you're not in the shot? You can just say, hey, will you just make sure that by the time she gets to this point, no one is behind her, because it'll ruin the shot for me. And then hopefully a planner will understand that means I need to be out of the shot by then. Anyways, if it's something you're dealing with a lot.
Yeah. Another one this person said is, it's like nails on a chalkboard when other vendors ask for images early. And I will say to this that I think like 10 years ago, when a bunch of florists started businesses, or vendors, not just florists, but like tons of weddings started getting a lot bigger and more popular, and people started, I think there was like a big slew of new businesses in the wedding industry.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was like this lack of understanding, and I'm speaking for myself as well, in the fact that those photos are not rightfully yours to use in the first place. Like that you should have it in your contract at all that the client's okay with you using them anyway. But I think that a lot of people kind of are acting entitled, like, to get the photos from photographers when you are, in fact, you are not the client.
I do agree with that, like on both sides. I think my contract does say that I have rights to anything that has my design in it, period. That's part of my marketing material, and that's part of why I would take on a job. So while I do have rights to those photos, I'm not taking jobs in order to get photos. Like I'm taking jobs to pay bills. I'm taking jobs like to, create a business. My sole goal is not to just get the photos as fast as I can. So I think in that sense, you have to be patient. You can't wait till the photos freaking come out. You do have rights to them, but...
Well, if it's in your contract, yes, you have rights to, the client is giving you permission to use photos they own.
Right. Correct. Yeah. I don't know.
Because we did not hire the photographer. So I think the photographer's point is like, don't reach out to me.
Yes.
Like pushing the deadline I have with the client so you can get the photos, because I'm not even working with you.
Agree. I do. Oh, I very much agree with that. And I think, honestly, no one should be reaching out to the photographer besides the planner. And the planner should be reaching out on behalf of the client.
Right.
But no one else. And actually, it's pretty infuriating when I've definitely had vendors who will like go around me and ask the photographer directly for photos. And I'm like, why would you do that? First off, I will send you the photos when they come. Right. Second off, like you're just making yourself look like a dick to the photographer.
Yeah. And that's this photographer's point. She's just saying like, I'm hearing from all these vendors like asking for the photos. It's not.
I think people have become, like you said, honestly, I think people have become a little bit too entitled on what they get to do for a wedding and what they get out of it and what photos they get from it. I think we're all supposed to be working as a team anyways, but you still have to follow the normal workflow. Like when a client gets photos, you ask for photos. You ask the photographer, you ask the client or whatever, and you have rights to those photos. But like you said, you're basically borrowing images from the person who bought the images.
Right.
So your contract should clearly state that, but also don't be a jerk and try to like put, I just wait, just be patient.
And then you got those videographers not delivering anything.
I've heard about them.
You heard about them?
Heard about them.
That's a whole other story.
That's a whole other story. Has anyone heard that drama?
Has anyone heard you? I'm not going to tell you, but
Go do some sleuthing. You'll probably find it. It was all the rage last year, if you don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, which was like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, last shit. Year. Was it last year then or the year before? 2020?
No, I think it was last year. I mean, I think it was an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
And yes, everyone knows about it. If you're the person who wasn't delivering the videos, we all know.
Yes, we all know.
Everyone knows. Okay. I once had to photograph 14 toasts, not pieces of toast. The priest told everyone that sex was only 17% of the marriage. They broke up 2 months later. This is the most random story.
Hayden, will you please take the last 15 seconds and make that real?
I don't even know what I'm reading. I haven't read any of this before. It's literally just the first time I'm even opening it. I once had to photograph 14 toasts. The priest told everyone that sex was only 17% of the marriage. They broke up 2 months later. The groom had a tattoo of the bride's face. He died 2 years later for reasons unknown.
Oh my! These are all just random facts about
just one wedding. She did not bother tying anything together or giving any conclusion.
Exactly, just random facts.
I had to photograph 14 toasts. So
Alyssa has to read it again.
I'm just trying to really understand what's happening here. It was a Catholic wedding, I guess.
14 toasts. Unacceptable.
I'm sorry. My son is obsessed with me pretending to be the mother of a hammerhead shark who's very afraid of toast.
Why are you filming these things? I want to see all of it.
I constantly have to be a hammerhead mother making pretend toast, and then I have to be my afraid hammerhead baby at the same time who's terrified of toast, and we're not sure why. But my son is a killer whale who loves toast. And so my hammerhead baby is too afraid to eat the toast, so I have to feed it to this killer whale, who's my son.
How? How did this story come about? How?
I don't know. We have a hammerhead and we have a whale, like a rubber toy. And he's literally, the way he pretends is psychotic. Like, I'll be like, oh, I'm a hammerhead swimming in the ocean. And then he's like, he always has to like bring in family elements. So he's like, no, you're hammerhead's mommy. I'm like, okay. Hello, son. I'm your mom. And he goes, he's hungry. And then I say, okay, I'll make you some toast. He's afraid of toast. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, now be the baby. Be afraid. I'm like, okay. Oh, no, toast. He's like, now be the mommy. And I'm like, oh, you have to eat it even though you're afraid. He's like, now you're a cow. You have udders. I'm a farmer. I'm like, no. I don't even do that. It's just like, it's like constant. There's no like breath between us changing roles.
A little bit. I'm dying.
Now I'm a baby cow. Now I'm the farmer. I'm like, I'm not taking my shirt off. We're not playing that game.
I can't. Oh my God. This is why I could never have children. This is so much work. It's so exhausting.
I know.
It's exhausting just listening to this story, this role play story.
I know. I'm just like crying. Oh my God.
I'm a baby toast.
Oh, you're afraid. Now lay eggs. Then it goes into dinosaur. Now you just laid eggs. Now I'm going to eat your eggs. Now protect them. You're the mother. Now you're the baby. I'm eating you. It's like,
oh my God. I'm seriously dead.
So anyway, that's all I thought of when she said, I once had to photograph 14 toasts. I'm like, oh, I am PTSD over toast right now.
Oh my God. I can't. It's going to take me a while to get over that story. Okay. Okay.
So shall we move into sexual harassment, or is this a bad time?
Yeah, sexual. Yeah, go.
Okay. This person, who's a videographer, said, would love to hear you. This is not a joke. I'm sorry. We're still laughing over the last thing.
I'm so sorry. I imagine our podcast editor is going to be like, do you want me to leave all of that in, or should I cut any of it? And
you can leave it.
I say leave it. All right, I'm ready. Next.
Okay. Would love to hear you talk about the bordering on sexual harassment women vendors receive at weddings. I've had drunk grooms wrap their arms around my shoulders and stay there for way too long. Guests who are grabby, including grabbing the lens of my camera. Groomsmen who flirt to the point of discomfort. I bet you'd get some great specific stories. Oh, if you do a call out, yeah, could.
Yeah.
But I feel like you've seen this a lot more than I have because, you know, doing flowers. The only time I've been uncomfortable, honestly, no one will ever touch me.
Yeah.
I would say, stop touching me if anyone was touching me. But I will say sometimes at breakdowns, like it's just a gross feeling sometimes, especially the men. They're like, not all men, but like there's just like a fraternity feel sometimes where there's certain men who are drunk and think they're just so funny. And it's so...
That's all day.
That's all day. Okay.
All day. Yeah. I think, and you know, obviously this could be like a long conversation about just how women are treated in general. But yeah, I definitely think, especially when there's any type of like woman in authoritarian type role, it happens even more. So I think this person is probably a photographer. Film, I think. Okay, so they have to like be telling people what to do. Yeah. And same with planners, right? We're like constantly telling people what to do. And I don't want to say it only happens then, because obviously you get a crappy feeling at the end of the night just when you're doing teardown. So I think it probably happens to just all women throughout the day. Although I do think as a photographer, a videographer, a planner, you're like in with them constantly. And then on top of that, you're like telling them what to do. And I also would never let a groomsman touch me ever. If someone tried to put his arm around me, I would not be okay with it. But yeah, I think unfortunately it does happen. Yeah, I don't even have a solution for it except for to just, you know, tell people not to touch you.
Yeah, I would just
don't give them the time of day. I think that's hard. I think that's hard for women because we oftentimes feel like we have to be like nice. Like we have to just say, like we have to go along with it to a point so that you don't make anyone uncomfortable, and you have to be like, ha, 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 you know, or so that you don't come off as a bitch. But I think you have to be okay not caring if someone thinks you're a bitch, let them think you're a bitch, because that's your personal space. They don't get to be.
Yeah, I do not prescribe to being polite if I'm sacrificing my own personal comfort.
Yes.
I don't care. So I would just say, you know, if you're in that situation, to just have a boundary where it's not even emotional. It's just like,
exactly.
Oh, no, you don't touch me.
Yep. Yep.
You can throw a little laugh in there if you want. Yep. I don't know. It makes me think of back in my Chicago days when I go to bars and I had no responsibility in my life about anything. I'd be sitting at a table with friends, and if a man ever sat with us, I just asked them to go away. I remember my friends feeling super uncomfortable and being like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that." Even though they wanted him to go away, they felt like it was rude. But, you know, I would just say, we're here just to talk to our girlfriends.
Yep.
Like, can you not sit here?
Yeah.
Not obligated to talk to you just because you want to talk to me. Yeah. And same thing goes at a wedding. Like, you're not obligated to reciprocate any of that energy just because someone's directing it at you. You can say, no, thanks.
I think it's probably a little harder at a wedding because you consistently have to be in front of that person. And so if you make things super awkward, which unfortunately, that is just how the world works, where if it is 2:00 in the afternoon and I'm wrangling up groomsmen and one of them hits on me, I mean,
you got the whole day.
Yeah, you have the whole day of knowing that if you say something that they get too defensive towards, then they will potentially be talking shit about you for the rest of the day to everyone else, and it could make things incredibly awkward. They could not listen to you when it comes to the processional. And this is all just to say that sucks. That it's a very unfair standard, I think, that's put on especially females in the industry. And I don't even want to, I'm not saying like men, I'm not gonna lie, Monty gets hit on all the time by men.
Oh, yeah, look at him.
I know. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's understandable. But it is kind of funny to think like he's a man, and be it he's a gay man, but still he's a man and he's a beautiful man. And people make comments about his butt all day long. And I'm like, how inappropriate would this be if it was me? If people were making comments about my butt, I would feel so uncomfortable and I'd be very unhappy. So it's
that's
really
inappropriate,
right? Like the dynamics are just unfortunate. And how people treat wedding vendors in general, they treat it like you're not a professional. Like I always say I'm a wedding planner and I compare my job to a lawyer. That's how seriously I think you should take it. I'm an attorney. Take me the exact same amount of serious, treat me the same. Which is how I think you should look at yourself walking into a wedding. And unfortunately, people look at weddings like, again, they're just this fun party. And if you're working it, you're someone's friend. And yeah, it's hard dynamics to navigate for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think it's an art. Unfortunately, it has to be an art that you have to kind of learn how to hold boundaries. And like you said, in the past when I've held boundaries, I make sure I'm not like humiliating that person, because that is when it will get really embarrassing. But there's ways to make light of it while also standing your ground.
Yep.
Makes me think of the other day I took Django to this like military museum in Austin. It's free. It has tons of airplanes inside. He loves airplanes. And it's run by veterans. So it's all these very elderly men. Mm-hmm. And they were very sweet. But there was a point where they came over because there's a cockpit you can get into, and it's very small, and there's like a little ladder. I don't know. It's just kind of an uncomfortable setup. I had no desire to get in, but Django wanted to. So I helped him get in. One of the men came over and was talking to him about it and whatever. It was sweet. And then Django got out and he's like, "Okay, your turn." And I didn't want to get in it. Yeah. I didn't want to get in it. And I was also wearing yoga pants. I knew I had a hole in the butt. And I was like, and there was like a crowd of people. I'm like, I don't want to get on the ladder and put my butt in everyone's face. Mm-hmm. I just didn't want to do it. And he would not take no for an answer. And I didn't want to be rude to him. So this just kind of reminds me of this kind of situation where you just have to be frank without it being super emotional. Mm-hmm. He was like, "Get in." And I was like, "I don't want to." And he's like, "Come on, you got to get in. Get in." He's like, "I'm not taking no for an answer." And I was like, "Listen, I appreciate your persistence. You've never met me. I'm equally as persistent, and I'm never going to get in that cockpit." And he just was like, looked a little shocked and like kind of chuckled and walked away. I'm not getting in. I don't know. I guess you're used to people just caving under you, pressuring.
I never understood that either, where someone's like, "Just do it." And I'm like, I'm actually just telling you, I have no desire to.
I'm not going to. The answer is no. Yeah. So I just imagine in this situation as being like, "Oh, people don't touch me while I'm working," or something like that.
I actually think that's such a good way of saying it. Like that's like you're almost saying it like this is just standard. You should know this. Like, actually, no. You don't touch me. People don't touch me.
People don't touch me while I'm working.
You don't touch me while I'm working. This has been fun, but stop.
And I'd probably be like, "Look at him. Go touch him," or something like that.
That's a great
I would not be pointing to Monty. I'm saying like one of his friends or something, like a fellow groomsman.
100%. Look at
just
that.
To clarify.
Yes. I think that's great advice. That is a great way to handle it. Love it.
But don't take that shit. If it's making you uncomfortable, you say no.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to do a little closeout submission here. Scary/stressful freelancing moment during the reception at an outdoor wedding surrounded by the ocean. A child about 5 years old went missing for half an hour. The DJ's delivery wasn't the best. Well, I don't always think about DJs. Just kidding. We love you, DJs.
If you're a good one.
The DJ's delivery wasn't the best when announcing this while abruptly stopping the music, causing chaos. But he drove a square car. Everyone, including bride and groom, were scouring the very big property, yelling this kid's name for 30 minutes. We had guests literally jumping into the water looking for the kid and being soaked for the rest of the party while this kid was just hiding in a bush, ignoring everyone that walked past who couldn't see her. The rest of the night, she was in the bride's arms. This is why we don't have children at weddings, especially those that are outdoor and surrounded by the literal ocean.
by the literal ocean, by a literal massive body of water, the biggest one in the world.
It's not, there's no metaphors about this. It was the ocean.
It was the ocean. I agree. I don't think children should be at weddings. And I also think if they are at weddings, then parents need to be responsible for watching their kids, unless you want to hire a professional babysitter. It is one of anytime this often happens where a bride will be like, can we just put all the kids at their own table? And I'm like, abso-freaking-lutely not.
And who's responsible? And then you can watch them.
Exactly. I'm like, I'm not watching them. So who's going to be responsible for those children when they start flinging food across the room? No, absolutely not, which is, I totally agree. I do not think that children, again, you wouldn't bring your baby to a New Year's Eve party, probably, that you knew that there was just going to be like drinking at all night and you wanted to also drink. Like, again, if you're not going to drink and you're going to be responsible and you're going to have your child attached to your hip, then by all means, bring your baby along.
Okay. I disagree. I don't blanket disagree, but I do think that there are weddings. Like, I imagine because Brian and I didn't have a wedding, and I imagine someday we will, just to like renew our vows. We didn't even do vows when we got married. So I'm like, let's just do vows and have a wedding someday. And I imagine there will be children, but I would also make sure I would probably go to do it at a private property somewhere, not by the ocean, because I would do it in a space that I literally nothing could happen to the kids, that they could like wander around. Like, I have friends out here in Texas that have parties for holidays, and I do not see Django for like an hour, and I'm not panicking and like making announcements because I know there's literally like there's acreage, there's no roads, there's no ocean for him to fall into. So I think it would be really fun to have a wedding with kids. I think it would probably have to be a private property because you can't wander around a venue that
I also think there's a huge difference between having just a random party and having a wedding and having a vow renewal and having a wedding. Because you have a wedding and someone's paid like hundreds of thousands of dollars to have this one day that's about them and everyone's supposed to be celebrating them. And then you have to stop it for 30 minutes to look for someone else's child that you let run off.
Well, I guess my point is I wouldn't ever have kids at a wedding if there was any chance, if there was a body of water, or if they weren't allowed to wander around and hide in a bush, then I wouldn't have kids at the wedding.
Yes.
But because I would personally want my friends to all be able to bring their kids to the wedding because it's fun, I think, that would control where I would choose to get married. I would go probably rent a private property somewhere where they could just wander and be free and safe. So,
Gotcha. Yeah. I think I have some other opinions that I probably just am not going to share on this podcast, but...
Why? About kids?
Yeah.
Why don't you share it? It won't bother me.
I don't think it's the popular opinion necessarily, but I just don't...
That's fine.
Yeah. I just don't... I mean, I don't know. Me personally, I just think it's an added responsibility that you're adding to something that should be... I think, I don't know. I think literally, unless it's the parent is going to be responsible for that child through the whole evening, whether or not, there's always going to be a place that a child can hide. My brother hid behind a couch for an entire day when we were kids, and the police got called, and it was this whole thing because he hid behind a damn couch. So I think when you add kids into the mix, you're just adding like another element of responsibility. Someone needs to be responsible for that. So unless the person bringing the child is aware and willing to be fully responsible for watching that child and being attached to that child for the whole time, I think the majority, I'm not saying kids just shouldn't be allowed at weddings, period. Like, you know, most of your friends have kids. I don't have children, and I don't have children for a reason. So if I had a wedding or I, had a big party, I personally wouldn't necessarily want children there. But that's a total personal opinion. That's very subjective. But I think in general, most of the time weddings are celebrations that people just don't want to worry about anything. They just want to get drunk and they just want to have fun and da-da-da-da-da. And I think just be realistic. Have kids there if the people bringing their kids are going to be responsible and watch their kids the whole time. Don't allow kids if there's a possibility of your kid running around and hiding somewhere for a half hour and literally the entire wedding party having to search for them for 30 minutes. It just seems So I don't know. It seems like there's a high probability of that happening when you have a ton of kids running around and you have 150 people gathered in a space for a wedding specifically.
Yeah.
To your point, if
I wouldn't panic if Django disappeared for 30 minutes. I would just be like, he's hiding somewhere. Like, I wouldn't have the DJ stop. Even at this age, he's almost 5. Like, he's not getting in the ocean.
Why? Like, he sounds very curious.
He's also cautious, though. Like, he knows about death. I've told him, this is why you don't run into the street. You'll get squished and die. And no, you'll never see me again. Now he doesn't run into the street. It's true.
Yeah, well.
It's true what will happen.
Yeah.
We pass the graveyard and there's like people there. He's like, look, Mommy, someone died. I'm like, yep. And he's like, who died? I have no idea. That's all he doesn't understand. But yeah, I personally like I wouldn't mind having a wedding where kids were running around unattended. But it would have to be a specific space, not a formal venue.
Yeah.
Like,
I think if people are going to be responsible about it,
liabilities.
Kids can come. Yeah, exactly. But you just you can't just have kids come and then everyone expects someone else to take care of the kid.
And people do get wasted. Like, obviously, I'm saying there would have to be designated drivers and stuff if there were children. And
I will just say, honestly, if you're going to have a wedding with children, I think you should almost always hire a professional babysitter to be in charge.
Just watch.
Just as like a backup.
Follow them around.
Yeah. I think it's a really good idea. Anyways.
That's a small charge. That's a small... That wouldn't cost very much either.
I can't, even if it was $100 an hour. So you're going to pay $500 to have someone like just keep an eye out for the kids. I think it's a great investment.
All right. Well, that's it, people.
I would also love to hear anyone's opinions. We should do a poll on Instagram and ask people what they think about kids at weddings, yay or nay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll ask as soon as this episode comes out, whenever it comes out.
Okay.
All right, this has been fun.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Candid Creative Podcast. If you haven't remotely found amusement in what you've heard today, go ahead and show us a little love with that 5-star rating and subscribe to the show on whatever platform you so desire. Continue following our journey through all of the modern medias, including Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Just search for @Candid Creative Podcast. And last but not least, if you're dying to hear our thoughts on any hot topics, unpopular opinions, or maybe you just need some good, solid, no BS advice on what to do in your day-to-day, head over to www.candidcreativepodcast.com and submit all of your deepest and darkest secrets to us. All submissions are always anonymous. Thanks again, you guys. And as always, keep it candid, creatives.